The town of Pineda, nestled among towering pines and embraced by rolling hills, presented an untouched slice of Americana. The streets were punctuated by laughter from children playing in backyards while neighbors exchanged pleasantries on their morning walks. This was a place where everyone knew each other and the sun seemed to shine just a little brighter. But even idyllic settings can harbor veils of darkness, hidden in plain sight. At the center of this community was Marcus Delgado, a local businessman known for his charity work and dedication to the town. He owned a family-run hardware store, and his fiancée, Carol, was a favored school teacher adored by her students. Together, they seemed like the quintessential couple, the embodiment of Pinda's charm. People often remarked on how perfect they appeared, unaware of the underlying tension in their relationship, visible to those who looked closely. The signs were subtle. Carol often found herself withdrawn, a shadow of her former self, battling bouts of anxiety and unexplained paranoia. "I don't know what's wrong with me," she confided to her best friend, Sarah. "I just feel trapped." Sarah tried to encourage Carol to talk to Marcus, but the fear of disappointing him kept her silent. Despite her struggles, life in Pineda continued, seemingly untarnished. Children were growling excitedly over stories of local legends, one being the mysterious well of the Pineda, an ancient stone well said to be a portal to other dimensions. Visiting the well became a rite of passage for young teens, an adventure shrouded in both curiosity and apprehension. They spoke of it in hushed tones, a place where secrets layered with darkness lay abandoned. The well was often associated with local folklore, but as the seasons passed, it began to intertwine with whispered rumors of disappearances, particularly surrounding Marcus's friends. One such friend, Jake, had unceremoniously vanished just weeks before a well-attended town fundraiser, heightening tensions among residents. Little did they know, fate would soon thrust them deeper into chilling truths that would unravel the perfect facade of their community. Soon, the cracks in this seemingly perfect town became evident to those willing to look closer. Dr. Emily Reyes, a local physician, noticed an alarming number of young adults coming in for unexplained injuries or anxiety attacks, often linked to dark thoughts and sleep disturbances. "I diagnosed them with acute stress disorder, but their stories were always the same: loss of control, fear of the dark," she explained. They felt like they were being watched. Emily took her concerns to the town council meetings, but her warnings were often brushed aside by voices insisting that it was merely an increase in stress from work or school. Yet, her concerns were warranted as a thicker air of tension enveloped Pineda, thick enough to slice through with a knife. The breaking point came one late autumn evening when Carol stepped out for a jog and never returned. Hours passed into days, and the silence grew deafening as friends and family rallied together in search parties. The community, once tight-knit and carefree, was now gripped by fear. Carol's absence reframed every conversation, reshaping the perception of their beloved town. It was during the search efforts that an unmarked package arrived at the local police station, its sender unknown. Inside lay a stack of photographs depicting a well connected to the lives of several missing townsfolk, including Carol. The chilling images suggested something more sinister, something lurking beneath the surface that had long been ignored. A local journalist named Eric Johnson decided to investigate, determined to unearth the hidden horror behind Carol's disappearance and the connection to the well. He dug into archives, interviews, and records, piecing together the stories of the lost. "It felt like fever dreams being woven together," he later recounted. "Every trail I followed led back to that well, leaving me with more questions than answers." As Eric delved deeper, he began to unravel disturbing tales about ritualistic gatherings that once took place in the woods surrounding the well, places meant to ward off evil spirits, but seemingly twisted into something primal and predatory. Lone hikers and curious teenagers came across strange markings etched into trees and rocks, remnants of a frightful past that refused to fade away. Only days passed before the investigation took a dark twist. A group of young teens, drawn by a dare, explored the well area and stumbled upon remnants of what appeared to be human remains. Panic surged through the community as authorities were called to investigate. The recovery effort grew increasingly frantic as the scale of the horror began to dawn upon Pineda. The police unearthed skeletons hidden not far from the well, 27 hidden bodies, each carrying unrecorded stories of lives that ended too soon. As their identities emerged, countless questions arose. Who were these individuals? How did they end up here? The discovery sent shockwaves throughout the community. Neighbors who had once been friendly now eyed each other with suspicion. Yet for Eric, it was a revelation that spurred him to push harder. He combed through missing persons reports, making crucial connections between the victims and others whose names crossed his path. "Every name linked back to some dark place," he recalled, "and every link brought me closer to Marcus." With mounting evidence against him, Marcus tried to maintain the illusion of normalcy. The facade that had shielded him from scrutiny slowly crumbled as police zeroed in on his whereabouts during the disappearances. Friends began to whisper, doubts that were once hushed grew to shouts that echoed in every corner. When the authorities finally confronted him, Marcus cracked under pressure, revealing a twisted belief system that had consumed him. Submerged within the well's depths lay an ideology, a toxic blend of control and fear leading to the deaths of so many. He spoke of purity, of cosmic significance, one officer recalled. It was as if he believed he was meant to cleanse the town. The arrest marked the beginning of the end, but the healing required would prove more complicated. Families faced the aftermath of what had happened, each one wrestling with their connections to those lost to Marcus's grasp. Memorials emerged, honoring the lives stolen by the darkness that had lingered too long within their town. Trials stretched into months, revealing layers of control that had once been hidden. As survivors and victims' families found their voices, laws began to shift, igniting a conversation around mental health and community vigilance. No longer could the people of Pineda allow fear to dictate silence. As the dust settled, Eric stood at the edge of the well, reflecting on the lives that had intersected in such horrific ways. Despite the pain, an ember of hope flickered in the hearts of those remaining. They understood the need to remember, not just those lost, but to confront the shadows of the past that had gripped their community for so long. Because what hides behind a perfect smile can be the darkest secret of all. After the revelations came to light, Pineda emerged from the shadows of haunting memories, yet the path to healing felt daunting. The community had rallied together, but the scars left by Marcus Delgado's actions were etched deeply in their collective consciousness. Grief and anger coexisted, coloring the town with a palpable tension that no amount of sunshine could wash away. In the wake of the trials, a memorial was erected at the edge of the woods. The site of the well now transformed into a sacred space filled with flowers, candles, and photographs of the victims. With each passing month, the townspeople gathered for vigils, recalling not only the loss but also the lives that had been intertwined with their own. The gatherings became a ceremony of remembrance, a way to reclaim the lost narratives from the depths of silence. Dr. Emily Reyes, who had been instrumental in uncovering the buried pain within the community, took it upon herself to advocate for mental health resources. We can't just heal from the events of the past quietly. We need support, we need to talk, and we need to acknowledge the hurt, she urged. The response was overwhelming as residents slowly began to engage with each other and share their experiences. Therapy groups formed, aimed at fostering dialogue as well as understanding the impacts of trauma. As the months turned into years, the stories of the victims found new life, as the remaining residents sought to keep their memories alive. Carol's legacy became a symbol of resilience. Her students, now young adults, organized events in her honor, scholarships named after her, community service days focused on education, and outreach to ensure no child in Pineda ever felt isolated or unheard. Yet even in progress, shadows lingered. Eric Johnson continued to investigate other aspects of the case, diving deep into the twisted belief systems that had enabled Marcus's actions. He found himself drawn to the psychological patterns exhibited by both Marcus and those who had followed him. There's an odd comfort in shared delusion, he reflected during an interview. People can easily be swayed by charismatic individuals if they see what they want to believe. Meanwhile, the town became vigilant, wary of those who might resemble figures from their past. New families moved in, newer generations filled the schools, but the residual memory of loss remained palpable. Trust is slowly returned through transparency, Sarah noted during a community forum attended by local leaders. We must create a culture where questions are encouraged. Silence should become our adversary, not our ally. As time flew by, the legal repercussions of Marcus's actions resonated beyond Pineda. Legislative debates burgeoned around protective measures for communities, scrambling to prevent another horror unfolding unnoticed. The tired coldness of silence began to thaw, as whispers turned to clarion calls for change, invoking a new era for towns battling dark histories. Amidst the changes, Eric published a book chronicling the events that led to the unearthing of Pineda's ghostly secrets, ultimately titled The Well of the Pineda. It was a mix of investigative journalism and personal reflection, imbued with dignity for the victims intertwined within its pages. The book became a catalyst for conversation, resonating far and wide. On its release date, Eric was met with an unexpected wave of gratitude for shedding light on a subject that had been taboo for far too long. I didn't write this book for glory, he stated at the launch, but for the souls that yearn to be heard and for the towns that must learn from the past. As Pineda transformed, the road of remembrance intertwined seamlessly with local initiatives. Educational sessions were established in schools, focusing on empathy, kindness, and the courage to speak up. Workshops invited parents to recognize signs of distress in their children, bridging gaps that once isolated them. Years after that sinister autumn, townsfolk stood at the memorial, reflecting on the resilience that emerged from tragedy. Despite the darkness that had once gripped their hearts, they gathered to celebrate life, weaving through cycles of laughter, tears, and hope. They understood that healing was not linear, but rather a twisted path filled with memories, shadows, and reminders of their past. Each name etched in stone not only told a story of loss but also served as a reminder of the fragile beauty of existence, encouraging future generations to redefine the landscape of their lives. As Daniel Harrow closed the chapter of this haunting tale, he left listeners with a poignant thought that lingered long after the episode ended. Those who had borne witness to the Pineda horror turned their scars into strength, proving that what had hidden behind the surface could indeed be transformed into something powerful, a legacy of vigilance, memory, and an enduring commitment to community. Because what hides behind a perfect smile can be the darkest secret of all. As the years passed in Pineda, the cycles of remembrance and education continued to foster a new narrative. The once quiet town had transformed into a hub of community engagement, forging bonds that transcended the shadows of its past. Yet the quest for understanding remained, as townsfolk grappled with the complexity of human nature and the chilling capacity for darkness within ordinary lives. Eric Johnson, now a respected voice in investigative journalism, focused his attention on expanding the conversation around mental health and community-driven accountability. He traveled to conferences across the country, sharing Pineda's story, not only in hopes of raising awareness but to encourage other communities to engage in proactive dialogue. "We need to shed light where it's uncomfortable," he often said during his talks. "Prevention begins with honesty. Silence only breeds complicity." One afternoon, following a particularly poignant presentation, Eric was approached by a young woman named Maya whose face bore the weight of familiarity. "I grew up hearing about your town's story," she shared, her voice trembling slightly. "I lived in a community not too different from Pineda. There were whispers, but no one listened." The two exchanged stories of how darkness can linger silently, leaving scars that stretched far beyond their years. Back in Pineda, the annual memorial event drew crowds, attracting people from neighboring towns. This year, the theme revolved around breaking the cycle, emphasizing the importance of vigilance in their community. Local leaders spoke passionately about establishing mentorship programs for youth, aiming to create networks of support, places where young people could feel secure sharing their struggles without fear of judgment. Dr. Emily Reyes had spearheaded initiatives that brought mental health professionals into schools, ensuring students had access to resources that would promote emotional well-being. "The earlier we normalize seeking help, the stronger our future generations will be," she said during one of her sessions. Her determination to permeate the stigma surrounding mental health became a beacon of hope for many. Yet amid this blossoming resilience, some residents still found it difficult to shake the unease rooted in the town's history. Regular visits to the memorial brought mixed feelings for many. They acknowledged the lives lost but couldn't escape the haunting memories tied to each name etched into the stone. "I sometimes wonder if we can ever truly move on," remarked Sarah, glancing at the rows of flowers left in honor of the victims. "Will those scars ever heal?" Conversely, others like Neil, a former firefighter who had been actively involved in the search efforts during Carol's disappearance, took solace in the tangible progress that had arisen from tragedy. "Healing isn't about forgetting, it's about transforming pain into purpose," he affirmed during community meetings, igniting a sense of resolve among residents. "We owe it to them, this is how we keep their spirits alive." It was during one of these gatherings that a long-buried secret began to surface, one prompting a collective gasp as Maya pointed out the recurring patterns in their community. "As we build these new connections, let us remain vigilant. What happened in Pineda can happen anywhere," she urged. Her call for scrutiny sparked a wave of discussion, igniting ideas that reached beyond simple remembrance. Meanwhile, Eric's continued research also uncovered deeper connections between Marcus Delgado and a larger, disturbing web of underground figures that spanned beyond Pineda. As Eric gathered more evidence, he discovered patterns of manipulation at play, a clandestine network with similar beliefs that preyed on communities' vulnerabilities. "It's not just about one man, it's systemic," he noted gravely. With this new information, Eric took it upon himself to collaborate with law enforcement, unveiling his findings while emphasizing the need for community awareness. "In order to dismantle these networks, we must be vigilant about who we allow into our lives," he stated at a town hall, urging vigilance as a necessary stance, not an act of fear. As the stories surrounding Pineda continued to resonate in the wider world, many shared the sentiment that for a challenge this deep-rooted collective action was essential for bringing lasting change. Guided by the scars of their past, Pineda began to strategize ways to forge alliances with neighboring towns, creating networks focused on shared safety, openness, and education. Decades later, during the town's annual remembrance event, a film crew arrived to document Pineda's journey. Residents gathered once more, standing united at the memorial. Children played in the background, their laughter punctuating the air, a stark contrast to the somber tone of past gatherings. As the sun dipped below the pines, casting vibrant shades of orange and purple over the sky, the scene felt almost surreal. Eric stood behind the camera, watching as Maya spoke about her experiences in Pineda, her determination to carry the legacy of awareness into the next generation. "We cannot let fear dictate our actions," she declared fiercely. "Only by confronting the darkness do we find the light." As the footage rolled and captured moments of laughter intertwined with solemn reflection, the truth stood clear. Pineda had been forever altered, not defined solely by loss but shaped through resilience. Its story served as a testament to communal strength amid adversity, a reminder that collective vigilance could illuminate paths that darkness once overshadowed. In that serene moment, the community felt a renewed bond, interconnected like the roots of the towering pines surrounding them. They understood that the past, while dark, had shifted their destinies toward a shared future of compassion and accountability. Their commitment to encouraging dialogue paved the way for hope, insisting that the horrors of yesterday would guide the lives of tomorrow. Because what hides behind a perfect smile can be the darkest secret of all. As the years rolled on, Pineda's transformation drew attention from far and wide. The town became a case study in resilience, attracting journalists, researchers, and advocates hoping to learn from its past. With each visitor, memories were rekindled and stories of survival were shared, intertwining and amplifying the town's voice. Eric Johnson, now intricately woven into the fabric of Pineda, found himself at the forefront of this movement. He expanded his writing, contributing to various publications and participating in discussions on community resilience and mental health. His commitment to shining a light on the intricacies of human behavior helped create a platform for others to speak out. "We can't shy away from these conversations," he would tell audiences, "because silence only serves to perpetuate the same cycles." Dr. Emily Reyes, who had galvanized support for mental health initiatives, continued her tireless work in schools, pushing for educational reform that placed emotional wellness alongside academic achievement. During a presentation, she mentioned, "Education is not just about grades, it's about fostering a safe space where students can express themselves. Only then can they truly thrive." Her words resonated deeply with parents and educators, inspiring them to think differently about the role of schools in their community. Meanwhile, new leaders emerged in Pineda, young, passionate individuals eager to build on the foundation laid by the older generation. They organized workshops focusing on kindness and empathy, capturing the essence of what the town had come to stand for. This engagement began to shift perceptions, especially among the youth who had lived in the shadows of their predecessors' stories. They learned about history not as an anchor holding them down, but as a compass guiding them forward. Maya, once an outsider sharing her own experience of fear within a community similar to Pineda, became a prominent advocate. Her attempts to bridge divides had initiated a grassroots movement spanning neighboring towns, advocating for mental health services and intervention strategies. "We've got to break the stigma not just here but everywhere," she stated passionately during a community gathering. "Our voices are stronger when they blend in chorus." With her influence growing, Maya founded an organization called Voices United, dedicated to empowering young people to become community leaders. This initiative sparked creative outlets for expression, from art to writing, allowing youth to share their experiences and connect with each other. The simple act of sharing became therapeutic, a balm for the wounds that lingered beneath the surface. In a pivotal moment, Voices United collaborated with local schools to launch an annual art festival. Students showcased their works, often addressing themes of trauma, resilience, and hope. It transformed from a celebration of creativity into a powerful reminder of the strength found in vulnerability. The festival drew people not only from Pineda but from surrounding areas, igniting conversations that crossed town lines. As the event expanded, Eric sought to document the stories behind the artwork, diving deep into individual narratives. "Art reflects our realities," he remarked, "and it reveals the stories we often bury. This festival is a reminder that we're more than our past, we're a canvas for the future." Through this initiative, wounds started to heal, communities once divided now reflected shared experiences. It became clear that the echoes of Pineda's devastating past had shaped a legacy not of mere survival, but one rooted in profound empathy and understanding. However, shadows still lingered as external threads of despair wove through many families. Mental health issues continued to challenge residents even as support systems strengthened. Individuals grappled with their own battles, reminding their friends and family of the struggles still at hand. Dr. Ray's expanded outreach efforts, creating support groups that encouraged open discussions about anxiety, depression, and trauma. The groups became a safe haven, a refuge for those wrestling with the remnants of their experiences. By embracing our vulnerability, we rediscover our strength, she emphasized in her workshops, inspiring a culture where emotional honesty was welcomed. As the years rolled on, the annual memorial event evolved, shifting from solemn remembrance to vibrant celebration. The tone gradually transformed to reflect resilience and hope as community members shared stories of survival, paying homage to the lives lost while steering the conversation toward healing. One year, a particularly touching tribute came from a group of children who created a mural painted in the heart of Pineda, capturing the essence of joy, unity, and strength. As they unveiled their artwork, they spoke passionately about what it meant to be part of a community, a message echoing throughout the crowd. "We remember so we can grow," one young girl declared, her voice steady as she continued, "Together we can change the world." That summer, Pineda found itself the subject of a documentary that chronicled its journey, a record of human spirit rising from tragedy, becoming a beacon of hope for other towns struggling with similar histories. Filmmakers spent weeks capturing the essence of the community, inviting residents to share their journeys, their fears, and their aspirations for what lay ahead. As the end credits rolled, the documentary articulated a powerful message that echoed far beyond Pineda. True healing requires transparency, dialogue, and most importantly, community. The narrative illuminated the fragility of life, intricately entwined with the need for vigilance, compassion, and action. Years later, at a town meeting, Eric stood once more with a profound sense of purpose. "We have transformed our past into our future. Pineda has shown us what can happen when we unite against silence. Each generation carries our stories, our responsibilities to speak out, to hold space, and to ensure that our town never falls to darkness again." With this renewed spirit, Pineda soared stronger and together, weaving its narrative through every heart that called it home. As generations passed, their stories would be retold, of resilience forged in the depths of despair, of compassion blossoming like flowers in spring. Because what hides behind a perfect smile can be the darkest secret of all. As the years hummed along in Pineda, the town's evolution gained momentum, transforming it into a beacon of community-driven activism and mental health awareness. The annual events became not just commemorations of the past but celebrations of resilience, inviting conversations that connected families across generations. Maya, now a passionate advocate and community leader, found herself invited to speak at conferences and panels. Her platform expanded, advocating not only for mental health support but also for resources aimed at empowering marginalized communities. "True progress comes from recognizing our shared humanity," she often emphasized. "Together, we are the architects of change." Meanwhile, Dr. Emily Reyes continued her relentless pursuit of better mental health resources in local schools. Her commitment was evident as she forged partnerships with healthcare providers, offering free workshops and counseling sessions. The school nurse's office transformed into a sanctuary where students could feel safe, share their struggles, and receive guidance. "Let's create a generation that knows it's okay to not be okay," she repeatedly reassured her students. Eric Johnson, having documented countless stories of hope, recognized that the town needed an even stronger voice, a narrative that not only recounted struggle but highlighted victories. He proposed the creation of a community anthology, inviting residents to contribute their stories of survival, resilience, and compassion. The notion quickly gained traction, as everyone was eager to share their experiences and celebrate Pineda's transformation. As submissions poured in, Eric was struck by the diversity of backgrounds and journeys, each story wove into the fabric of Pineda, showcasing the power of individual narratives to create a shared tapestry of understanding. He was particularly moved by one submission from an elderly resident who had lived through the town's darkest days and matured into an emblem of hope. "Life is not just about surviving, it's about thriving together," she beautifully penned. The anthology, titled Voices of Pineda, became a pivotal tool for education and awareness. As copies circulated, schools incorporated it into their curricula, emphasizing the importance of empathy and understanding. The book wasn't merely an account of pain, it was a celebration steeped in lessons aimed at nurturing future generations. With each chapter read aloud, young faces lit up with emotions they had never articulated. In classrooms, students found common ground, voicing their concerns and fears, deepening their connections with one another. The culture of silence that had once overshadowed Pineda began dissolving, replaced by a growing sense of community. The annual art festival evolved once more, now paired with the anthology's launch, each artwork resonating with the experiences recorded in the pages. Passionate students showcased their talents alongside artwork reflecting themes of unity and healing, a vivid representation of their journey from darkness toward the light. The sense of collaboration cemented Pineda's identity as residents began exploring new forms of engagement. The town council established community days, where citizens gathered to work together on various projects, cleaning parks, planting trees, and creating public spaces that reflected their growth. Together, we are not just rebuilding our town, we're reshaping who we are, echoed Neil, one of the original volunteers. One crisp autumn afternoon, an unexpected visitor arrived in Pineda. A documentary crew had traveled from a neighboring state, intrigued by tales of the town's transformation. Their aim was to explore how communities could rise from tragedy and emerge more vibrant than before. Residents shared their stories, their laughter mingling with moments of solemn remembrance, perfectly blending hope with respect for their history. The documentary progressed, focusing on how people could reclaim their agency, weaving in the importance of mental health awareness and community building. Eric, featured prominently throughout, emphasized the need for vigilance against the darkness that once gripped their town. Awareness is not just about remembering, it's about actively creating an environment where silence does not reign supreme, he articulated passionately. As Pineda solidified its narrative, its story caught the attention of foundations and organizations dedicated to mental health and community enhancement. Grants began to flow into the town, allowing for the expansion of resources and programs that connected residents in deeper ways. Workshops on conflict resolution, community responsibilities, and active listening became staples of everyday life. Over time, the scars of the past remained, worn yet transformed into symbols of resilience rather than indicators of shame. Conversations surrounding mental health became commonplace as residents learned to recognize signs in themselves and others, fostering a culture of compassion and open dialogue. Understanding is the first step toward healing, Maya continually reminded those around her. One year, as the town prepared for yet another memorial turn celebration, a poignant question arose. How could Pineda ensure that its lessons would be preserved for future generations? Leaders began discussions on establishing a community museum, a space dedicated to chronicling Pineda's journey. A museum can serve as a testament to our growth, reminding us of the past while inspiring change, Eric proposed. After months of community discussions and planning, a space was chosen, an old church building that carried history within its walls. The renovation would breathe new life into the structure, turning it into a space not just to remember but to educate and empower. Excitement coursed through the town as memories, artifacts, and stories were collected, each piece contributing to the larger narrative of resilience. As the grand opening approached, anticipation swelled. The community gathered, each member bringing something, be it memories, photographs, or simple anecdotes, to contribute to their shared heritage. The atmosphere was filled with hope as they transformed the space into a haven of learning, reflection, and healing. On that momentous day, as families walked through the museum's doors, tears of joy mixed with the laughter of children as they explored the stories before them. Walls adorned with truth and beauty celebrated lessons learned, and interactive exhibits invited dialogues, further empowering every visitor. With time, the museum became a vital part of Pineda's landscape, a beloved destination for both residents and visitors who wished to understand the town's journey. It served as a living reminder of what could be achieved when a community refused to let fear silence them. As Eric stepped back to observe the bustling interactions within the museum, he felt a profound sense of gratitude wash over him. In capturing the essence of Pineda, he realized that the story had shifted from one of sorrow to one of empowerment, a legacy not tethered to the weight of pain, but rather to the strength found in unity and connection. Because what hides behind a perfect smile can be the darkest secret of all. But here, in Pineda, they had chosen to embrace the light, transforming those secrets into something powerful, a vow that they would never again let shadows define their lives. In the vibrant community of Pineda, the echoes of the past had transformed into powerful affirmations of hope and change. The shadows of earlier days, once oppressive, now contributed to a multifaceted narrative, a story where healing sprang from resilience, where voices once silenced rose to share their truths. Years rolled on, and the annual memorial celebrations transformed into joyous gatherings of gratitude. As families and friends reunited, they exchanged stories, laughter, and the lessons learned from their shared history. The museum became a living archive, reminding everyone that the threads of pain can be woven into a fabric of strength. Maya, Eric, and Dr. Emily led guided tour, sharing the histories of the individuals who had suffered yet also thrived. Each story became a testament to the human spirit, the very essence of Pineda. Support groups flourished, drawing individuals not only from the town but also from far and wide as people sought refuge and connection in the hearts of others. The strength of community continued to grow, as schools adopted programs based on the principles emerging from their shared experiences. Each new school year opened with workshops centered on empathy, emotional intelligence, and the power of active listening. As students learned to be vigilant and supportive of one another, a culture of awareness replaced the silence that had once suffocated them. As the documentary began to circulate beyond Pineda, it resonated with many, prompting conversations in other towns about the importance of community vigilance and mental health awareness. Pineda became a model for transformation, inspiring towns to rewrite their narratives and confront uncomfortable truths. Eric's commitment to documenting these changes continued, now more than just the town's mentor but also its chronicler. He published a series of articles, further exploring how shared adversity could transform communities into compassionate spaces. "What I see is not just a recovery," he would write. "It's a reawakening, a reminder that darkness can be met with light." The narrative of Pineda traveled to conferences and universities, igniting dialogues that studied the intricacies of community building and healing. Other towns reached out for guidance, eager to implement similar principles. "If we can create a template for healing through connection, then we have done something invaluable," Eric reflected during one such engagement. With each passing year, Pineda's efforts culminated in a significant milestone, an annual summit embracing mental health awareness. This occasion drew together experts, advocates, and community leaders from across the country, creating a platform for sharing insights and fostering collaborations. The summit hosted workshops, panels, and roundtable discussions, all revolving around how communities in unity could rise above adversity. In time, the museum became a hub for these events, its walls rich with history and its spaces filled with hope. Each exhibit continuously told a story not just of loss but of triumph, the newfound strength from shared experiences illuminating the path forward. As seasons changed, so did Pineda's reputation. It became synonymous with resilience, compassion, and a commitment to the collective well-being of its residents. Visitors often remarked on the palpable sense of connection that filled the air, witnessing a town that had forged its identity from adversity. Maya, now an accomplished speaker, often reflected on her journey, recognizing how the fragility of life had led her to found a network spanning multiple states, one that sought to empower young leaders wherever they may be. "We need to keep the dialogue alive, keep building these bridges of understanding," she would say, standing before eager crowds. The town of Pineda, once marked by sorrowful tales, began to flourish, fueled by the essence of human connection. Residents understood that every act of vulnerability nurtured their collective strength, and each conversation cultivated an environment where hope could thrive. As the sun set over the pines one warm evening, casting long shadows across the town square, Pineda stood resilient, a testament to the power of community, courage, and a lasting commitment to embrace both the light and darkness of the human experience. In choosing to acknowledge the complexity of their past, they ensured a brighter future for generations to come. Together, they had constructed a living legacy, a shared promise that not only honored those lost but celebrated the ongoing journey toward understanding, healing, and an unwavering sense of unity. Because what hides behind a perfect smile can be the darkest secret of all. Pineda had transformed that darkness into light, anchoring itself in the belief that solidarity and vigilance could illuminate the path ahead, forever committed to ensuring that they would never again succumb to silence.